No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It's
Gets
gross.
the people going.
Before we go on, I know I'm in trouble. I didn't give you your weekly meal last week, and I'm already running late on this episode breakdown too. Truthfully, episode 5 of Hell's Paradise didn't have many topics I really wanted to talk about that could be used for the last video for the full maybe 10 minutes. I didn't want to force out a video because I know for a fact you all could probably pick up on me sounding like this sounds like a chore rather than an actual passion project. So for the delay, I really apologize. Moving on, this episode of Hell's Paradise has awakened something in me. That dormant beast that loves to create within me has finally decided to come out and present this week's breakdown of episode 6. But this sudden trigger wasn't caused by the important fight scene between Rokuroda and Sigiri. No, instead it was my third eye finally realizing that Studio Mappa has decided to funnel all resources to not the fighting of this series, but instead one of the most important motifs of Hell's Paradise: sex. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Lanza, and I'm glad you decided to stop by for another weekly episode breakdown of Hell's Paradise. This video will be jam-packed as we take a look at episode 5 and 6. For those of you who are new to the channel, consider subscribing for more weekly breakdowns and longer-form video essays. For my returning viewers, thanks for joining me once again. Don't forget to leave a like, as those are greatly appreciated. Let's get started on brief summaries of Hell's Paradise's episodes 5 and 6. Episode 5 begins with Sigiri waking up from a horrible bout of poisonous dust inhaled from the island insects. We find that the rest of the group has come to two conclusions: that the island forestry may be man-made, and that the actual physical description of the elixir of life is not necessarily going to be a fruit. Sigiri comes to the decision of staying on the island, ignoring Genji's proclaimment that since Sigiri is a woman, that she is unfit to take on the challenges of the island. Sigiri shows Genji that she is more than capable of defending herself by stealing his sword. Seconds later, Genji is disemboweled by a meaty slap by Rokuroda, who had managed to sneak up on them. Meanwhile, the B-plot of this episode focuses on another pair, Yamada Asemon Tenza and Nurugai. The two of them already tried a futile attempt at escaping off the island, but realize that the waters are inhabited by more than just creatures, and access to the sea is cut off. The pair come to the consensus that they wish to continue to live and manage to escape back to the shore. Episode 6 picks up on Genji being torn in two from Rokuroda's slap. While Sigiri is tending to Genji's final moments, Gabimaru moves on the offensive in the hopes of stopping Rokuroda's fearsome attacks. As the battle continues, we come to realize that none of Gabimaru's spinjitzu techniques are effective. Sigiri comes to Gabimaru's aid as they both fight off against a more enraged Rokuroda. Through some clever thinking, they're able to suffocate Rokuroda and open a window for an execution-style finisher. Sigiri, Gabimaru, Yuzuriha, and Senta meet up after the battle, only to be greeted to the second stage of the island, an abandoned village. This episode's last few moments are dedicated towards Aza and Toma as they find themselves walking in on an especially intimate scene between two individuals. The episode ends on a cliffhanger. Sex and sexuality play an important role as a motif within the story of Hell's Paradise. It's what separates it from the rest of the pack. Sex and sexuality can be seen as an elusive physical descriptor, as shown by Nurugai, or as an internal conflict shown by Sigiri. Even then, this is really the first official moment in the anime when we're receiving a sexually intensive scene. So for some anime watchers, this scene may give them a case of whiplash. However, in the manga, we've already started to warm up to the idea of naked bodies. Consider that in the first few chapters, or really any scene where Sigiri is about to kill someone, in these scenes, the author was more gratuitous in showing scenes of a nude Sigiri. I think the anime has been able to show that the nudity was not essential to Sigiri's character, and was able to be more conservative with showing her naked body. Even Nurugai, who in the manga we receive a full body shot, is cut off halfway in the anime. The anime so far hasn't shown us intense sexual imagery, where the closest bit we've received is when the cannibal courtesan attempted to seduce another Yamada Asemon but found her head being decapitated off. If anything, the anime will now begin to pick up on the motifs of sex and sexuality, as the antagonists of the story have a deep connection with these factors. But on the note of sex and sexuality, let's take a moment to discuss the purpose of the middle path. Genji, upon his dying breath, comes to the realization that Sigiri has achieved the middle path. He comes to this conclusion after realizing that she possesses both the attributes of a man and a woman. One could say the ferocity of a man and the caring of a woman, but honestly this scene is just so weird to me because of how misogynistic Genji comes off as. I found it just really laughable while he was uttering his dying breath that he was finally understanding the unique blend of both masculine and feminine traits within a person. It's certainly possible for a woman to be ferocious and headstrong, just like it's possible for a man to care as much as any woman. They're not mutually exclusive attributes. It's not like there's never been the concept of a strong woman in anime before. This is more of a criticism towards the series, not just the anime. Instead, we can take a look at Sigiri's understanding of the middle path, which is more refined and makes more sense to the audience. She has found balance, the midpoint in not being too angry or too sad, to not be on the ends of the spectrum to extreme emotions. Let's take a moment to now talk about Sigiri, who has now completed her character arc. See, in the beginning of the series, Sigiri felt guilt over the act of killing anyone regardless of their punishment. She realized that Gabimaru, a person who has murdered thousands of individuals, shares the same burden, but instead of ignoring his victims, he bears the weight of their murder. There is a way to respect the people you've killed, and Gabimaru shows this path to her. Upon reaching the island, she assumes she could kill Gabimaru, but has already felt a strong connection to him, almost as if she respects him for his way of life, to murder but not forget the guilt associated with killing. Now, as she faces her first real opponent, Rokuroda, she completes her character arc where she finally is able to reach into the middle path. When Sigiri would strike with her sword, the guilt of murder would suffocate her. Now, when in combat, Sigiri pushes all other emotions away from her mind, like guilt or anger, and allows for her abilities to take over. Even when killing someone, she respects the lives they've lived. Rokuroda, based on his background, is another individual who we can characterize as a criminal who probably didn't deserve to be there. He was just another victim of his environment and himself. He never meant to murder others, but was running on pure instinct like self-defense or hunger. Sigiri, when killing him, acknowledges this past and allows his soul to finally sleep. Funnily enough, I've been seeing comparisons made between Sigiri and Tanjiro within the community. Tanjiro, for the most part, is a good boy, a naturally pure soul who seeks the goodness in others while trying to help anyone in need. Sigiri, on the other hand, is an executioner, a duty-bound individual who felt like she needed to prove herself in a man's field. The two are barely similar aside from the fact that they both fucking breathe and hold sympathy for their victims. I swear, I feel like anime fans just see a character acting sympathetic to an antagonist force and immediately think it's a comparison. Moving on to our main topic though, Sigiri is now a completed character. She has found a way to kill others while not being suffocated by the guilt of death. We can only hope to see how she uses this new calm state when fighting other more dangerous island inhabitants. This is most certainly a tangent, but I want you to stick with me for a second. I remember when I was in middle school and would go to the local library to continue reading the Yu-Gi-Oh manga. It was a trading card game I still play today. The Duelist Kingdom arc was fantastic, but it was only months later when I watched the anime that it felt so alive. I mean, really, the scene where Yugi destroys the moon itself is amplified through the voice acting, music, just the raw passion for the series is on full display here. This is what I mean by the talent of anime surpassing the manga. There are countless other examples that I could go into, but this is the one I would like to use. Hell's Paradise has, I wouldn't necessarily say the opposite, but it feels kind of common. I think that the anime adaptation so far has been serviceable, but there's something I can't put my finger on that makes this anime feel cheap. It's hard to say that considering that Studio Mappa is behind this adaptation, but I feel like some of the action is missing from this anime. Two scenes in particular are what bothered me the most when this anime made its weekly episode release. The first being Aizen's death scene, where the anime decided to PowerPoint slide away from Aizen losing the sword clash to half his body being squashed. The manga did it better. Now you can argue that the scene was too violent for airways. I'll concede that point to that argument. But then, why did Mappa have to cut out one of the coolest scenes in episode 5, where Tenza and Nurugai take their last offensive against the sea creatures? I loved this panel in the manga. It was one of the reasons that I even cared for this pair, ultimately, and I felt like it showed their ferocity and will to survive against all the odds. For the anime to cut this out, to just use a cheap fade, is insulting.
What the fuck?
This anime so far, personally for me, has been carried by the pretty colors and stellar voice acting, honestly, on Yuzuriha's full end. She's great. She's a great voice actor. I love her. I'm really sad because I felt like this anime adaptation definitely could have had more passion in it. Maybe the theory that Mappa's main A-team is busy on Vinland Saga currently is true, and Hell's Paradise was given their B-team. I don't know, but these are my personal feelings related to the anime adaptation as a whole. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope to be delivering more positive news in a few days after watching Hell's Paradise episode 7. See you, and take care.